What would you say if I told you that there's a bank you deal with daily where you have multiple accounts, and yet you may not even be able to tell me the name of the bank?
Welcome to the Doctor's Mentor Show. If you believe that medicine is an industry and not a profession, if you enjoy submitting complex reimbursement claims, or you would do another residency just for fun, be advised, you're about to be offended. You should probably leave now.
All this talk about mentoring doctors is ridiculous. I thought doctors learned to do everything better than everyone else the first year of medical school. At least that's the way they act.
If you love assisting patients with vitality breakthroughs, if the right to practice medicine without interference is important, and you want expert tips for practice freedom and profits to support your epic life, welcome aboard and prepare to be blown away. The Doctor's Mentor Show starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Lori Barr.
Whether you're in a medical practice you own, work for a corporation, or employed by a university, it's imperative that you understand that not all banks and bank accounts are created equal. Why, just comb through the mail you've received in your inbox this month. How many offers have you had from financial institutions promising special terms for loans since you're a doctor and other promotions for opening an account? What would you say if I told you that there's a bank you deal with daily where you have multiple accounts, and yet you may not even be able to tell me the name of the bank? Stay tuned to find out the name of the bank and if you're in the black or overdrawn.
Today's topic: love.
Back when I first started my academic career, I had the opportunity to personally work with the late Dr. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I remember the day he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Lori, you're a trim tab for the medical field. Do you know what a trim tab is?" I sheepishly admitted I didn't know what a trim tab was. And Dr. Covey was kind enough to explain to me that there are 2 small paddles on the bottom of a boat that improve performance, efficiency, and safety of the boat in shifting seas at variable speeds. He even autographed my copy of his book that way so I'd remember. That book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is where I learned about this bank account I'm sharing with you. And this is in his book as well. So if you want more information, you can look at that book. You see, each of us has multiple accounts open at, ready for the bank's name? The Bank of Trust. No, I didn't say the Savings and Trust. I said the Bank of Trust. Listen, for every person with whom you share a relationship, you have an emotional bank account. The currency you either deposit or withdraw is trust. You make either a deposit or a withdrawal with each personal interaction. The question is, as a doctor, are you even conscious of your deposits or withdrawals? For example, you planned ahead for your anniversary. You traded out a call, and you get to enjoy a romantic evening together with plenty of unhurried time with your spouse, so you can reminisce about the way you fell in love. You just made a deposit in the emotional bank account you share with your spouse. On the other hand, let's say company's coming for dinner and you're supposed to pick up the dessert from the bakery on your way home from the clinic and you forget. You'll probably find that you made a withdrawal from the emotional bank account you share with your spouse when you get home. Medical training and practice environments do not nurture awareness of the impact or importance on emotional bank accounts in physicians. There's ample evidence that performance pressures actually cause this awareness to be tossed away from most clinicians like a hot potato. For example, Daniel Goleman, you may know him from his work on emotional intelligence and social intelligence. In his writings on social intelligence, emphasizes that physicians and other leaders who face suffering and emotional pressures on an ongoing basis learn how to emotionally detach from the situation as a way to decrease their burnout. Goleman writes that there's a risk that detachment can lead to indifference rather than compassionate empathy. Now, compassionate empathy is where not only do you understand what another person is experiencing, you feel it with them, and you're spontaneously moved to help. For example, let's say you go in to examine a child with abdominal pain, and they begin to retch. You spontaneously move to get them a container for what's regurgitated, and at the same time, you physically ache just a little bit in your belly because you know how uncomfortable it is to throw up. So if you ever find yourself in your medical practice turning away from that patient and shuffling out of sight instead of spontaneously helping, You might just be on your way to being indifferent about your patients. God forbid that another doctor finds himself or herself on that isolated pinnacle. Instead, let's look at easy ways to make deposits into the emotional bank account you operate at the Bank of Trust. Let's make new habits in this regard. Remember, for every relationship you have an account at the Bank of Trust, and the other person either trusts you more or trusts you less after each of your interactions. So let's take these 3 steps to make consistent deposits in your emotional bank accounts. Number 1, behave yourself. Dr. Covey says, self-mastery and self-discipline are the foundation of good relationships with others. This does not mean you need to be perfect. It does mean that you might benefit from looking at the areas in your life that your medical career has distracted you from paying attention to the areas that they deserve. So, for example, how's your emotional bank account with yourself? Can you trust yourself to give your body, mind, and spirit the rest, nourishment, and rejuvenation necessary to be a peak performer when you desire? A quick glance in the mirror will reveal how well you're doing in this area. The better you become at keeping your commitments to yourself and to others, the easier it will be to strengthen your relationships. So number 1, behave yourself. Number 2, realize that close, long-standing relationships require a constant flow of positive deposits. So the longer you've known somebody and the more closely you work with them, the more often you're going to have to make positive deposits in that emotional bank account. So let's examine that emotional bank account you share with your next of kin. Look at your husband, wife, parent, child, someone who loves you unconditionally and only wants the best for you. Can they trust you to do what you say you'll do? Dr. Covey says you can't talk your way out of problems you behave yourself into. There's no quick fix if you've already created a deficit in that bank account, if you're in the red in that relationship. One of the easiest ways to make positive deposits is simply to take time alone with that person and actually listen to them completely. Just as a side note, listening completely means quieting your own mind so that you're truly holding a space for whatever they want to share. Getting caught not listening when you say you are is a major withdrawal on your emotional bank account. So unless you truly can commit to quieting your own mind and holding that space and really listening to them, don't even go down this recommendation path. So number 1, behave yourself. Number 2, realize that the closer the relationship, the more constantly you're going to have to put positive deposits into the bank account. And number 3, little things, they really do matter. You know, you may hear plenty of chatter about, oh, don't sweat the small stuff. Yet, if you really do get in the habit of performing tiny, minuscule acts of kindness, it will make major deposits in the emotional bank account. If you want to start this habit, simply think of ways that you can be respectful of that other person. Is she older than you? Stand when she enters the room. Address her by her formal name. Did he drop something? Well, pick it up for him. Are you going to get a cup of coffee? Ask somebody you work with if they'd like you to bring them one back. Is she cold? Give her your sweater or coat. Is he teary-eyed? Give him your handkerchief. Yes, I did actually say handkerchief. Now, I know you may think, oh my goodness, handkerchiefs, that is so last century. And you're right. I guess, a box of hospital tissues will suffice, although they're pretty rough on the old nose and eyes. But a doctor's clean, folded handkerchief, a handkerchief is really personal. The little things are personal. So now you know 3 ways you can make consistent deposits into emotional bank accounts. What do you do if you make an unexpected major withdrawal? More often than not, let's look at a real-life clinical example. So more often than not, in your medical practice, you'll be doing some kind of a procedure, or there will be some point in the day where you may get overwhelmed, and that'll leave you feeling frustrated. If you are not in the habit of checking your tone before you speak, the frustration may come out sounding like hostility to those you're trying to assist you, even if you don't mean it that way. So have you got that now? So you get frustrated at work. You snap with your words. They sound short, curt, condescending, and somebody takes it the wrong way, even though you didn't mean that at all. You were just frustrated with the situation or frustrated with yourself. If that happens, you'll know by the look on their face or the sound of their voice when they reply. So what do? It's really simple. Just take a moment and sincerely apologize. Take that very next moment and sincerely apologize. Don't waste your time rationalizing your behavior. You can't rationalize another person's feelings or impression of the shared experience or event. So simply use sincere, short phrases like, "Goodness, that was unkind of me. Please forgive me." Or, "Boy, that was pretty thoughtless on my part. I'm sorry." The point is to develop a habit of apologizing instantly out of your heart, rather than a delayed apology that's out of pity or, worse yet, out of fear of repercussion. This gets back to that compassionate empathy I mentioned earlier. Don't be just another painful hospital or clinical experience for those around you. Strengthen your own character and integrity. Strengthen your Docgitimacy by recognizing a negative impact on the other person when you speak or act without thinking. And be leader enough to apologize right away.
Your next step.
Practice so you build new habits that support ongoing deposits in your accounts at the Bank of Trust, your relationships with others. This will be very uncomfortable at first because you're learning a new habit. In fact, it may even feel like it's backfiring. Have you ever made a commitment to change something in your life and had the opposite effect show up? So maybe you decided you would become more responsible with your finances, and the next thing you know, you've lost your wallet. Take comfort in the fact that you're moving, even if it does feel like you're moving in the wrong direction. Momentum is important. It gets you started. Be gentle with yourself. We know from research on recovering stroke patients that to learn a motor skill so that it requires no conscious thought to perform, like, for example, teaching a stroke patient to brush their teeth with the other hand, if you've paralyzed one, your dominant hand with a stroke, it takes between 1,200 and 1,500 repetitions. So don't expect to feel comfortable with these skills after your first 10 attempts. Yet 6 months from now, when you look back over your relationships, close ones and more distant ones, you'll be amazed at how trustworthy and influential you've become. Your Docgitimacy grows steadily.
There's more to explore at thedoctorsmentor.com.
Be sure to let me know how you have applied your emotional bank account deposits to form a new habit. You can go to thedoctorsmentor.com and leave me a message. I'll feature it on a future show.
Are you stopping at a hospital? Hello? Don't you know that hospitals are one of the sickest places on the planet? Don't touch anything in there and get out as fast as you can.